we went and showed up at the auction, and there was like 2 or 3 people at that auction. And like, we would see a bunch of houses sell. And there were these 2 or 3 guys that were bidding on it. And I said, hey, how does this work? They wouldn't even talk to me. Not look me in the eye, nothing.
Yeah.
And they just kept buying houses. They would all talk to each other. Even the auctioneer wouldn't talk to us. We're like, hey, how does this work? He's not going to talk to us. I go start reading loan documents to try to figure out like how this process works, because we're just starting to like learn by watching it. I start reading some loan documents. We figure out how sales going to happen. As we fast forward a week and a half later, we're like, hey, we're going to try to go bid at an auction. We show up, and the opening bid comes out for a house. He announces the address. He goes, going once, going twice. These other guys aren't bidding on it. We raise our hand. A guy named Glenn goes, hey, we want to bid. And he looked at us and he goes, okay, a penny over? And we go, yeah, penny over. And he goes, and you have to hold up your checks. And he goes, going once, going twice, sold. And he grabs the checks from us. And the 3 other bidders go, So the question is this: how do most agents find the secrets to succeed in today's competitive real estate market, especially when the top agents are keeping those secrets to themselves? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Hi, I'm Aaron Amuchastegui, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars.
Welcome back, Real Estate Rockstars. Shelby Johnson in the house. Back for more of Aaron Amuchastegui's roller coaster ride through life. Let's go. What did you say at the mastermind? You said it was like on day 1. Did you have the thing to make it worth it?
So are you in bonus time? Right? Like it was saying,
we're in bonus time.
We're in bonus time. Yeah. At the mastermind, I tell everybody, hey, you paid for your ticket. So I want you guys to tell me when you've hit that moment where it's worth it. And and we really hope that people are like, okay, now it's worth listening to the podcast. You know, some of the magical stuff that like God ended up just putting in my life in that journey. So by the time I'm like getting ready to leave prison, I've now done a couple years in school. I'm trying to research what I'm going to do next. And I'm like, all right, so I have this real estate background. I was studying architecture. I don't really like to do that anymore. I really like this business development stuff. And I start researching, and there's this degree called construction management. I'm like, okay, I want to get a construction management degree. And I start looking at the schools that have it. And it was like, there was like 4 or 5 different schools in California. And the one that was the best was Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And I see like, hey, that one's on the ocean. I'm like looking at stuff on maps. Who had no internet access back like in there, even though internet existed, obviously. Like we weren't allowed to have any of that. So we're like I'm looking through books about construction management, and then looking on the map, going, hey, that's a pretty cool place. I think I want to do that. I remember going back and telling my buddy Darren, who was my roommate at the time, hey, I think I want to study this, and I think I want to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And he goes, you'll never believe this. My aunt Wanda works admissions at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. What? And I'm like, are you kidding? Really? He goes, no, she works there. Like, so I've got like 4 or 5 months left to where I'm supposed to leave. And he reaches out to her. And the day I get out of prison, I get like on my way home, I get to stop and meet with the head of the construction management department and the admissions department on my way back to Oregon. I was going to have to go back for a few months of like probation and parole and some other stuff. And I hadn't gotten accepted to any school yet. But like the day I got out, getting to go like meet with them and talk to them about like, what do they do and my future and things like that. To fast forward, like to jump through some next hoops, right? So I'm off to the races now at this point. I'm like, I've lost a lot of my life. I need to make up for lost time. I'm a really, really hard worker right now. I go back for the summer. I'm still taking college classes. My mission was to get accepted to the school. I got accepted to go to school down there at Cal Poly.
And how old are you and what year?
So the 2003 at that point, like I'm 23. I jumped down to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Now by the time 2005 happens, I'm about ready to graduate. There's this nationwide competition that they do where schools compete against each other in the home building industry. Well, I won it my junior and senior year at Cal Poly. So my team won best in the nation 2 years in a row. It never happened before, where one person had been on a team twice when they won. And that was in 2005, which was also the height of the housing boom. So like it couldn't be a better time to be the best in the world at home building as far as new students. It helped that I was older, right? So now I'm graduating in 2005. I'm 25 years old. Because I had lost a couple years of my life, I took school a little bit more serious than the other people that were in there. And I was paying for it myself. So every time I walked into class, I was saying, I need to earn. So maybe this is where bonus time comes from. I was like, I'm paying $500 a class pretty much. And so the $500 every time I stepped into a classroom because of how expensive the out-of-state tuition was. And I would always say, like, what am I going to learn today that's worth the $500? And in the construction management classes, there was a lot of times, like through estimating processes or something else, I'm like, oh, that's what I learned today. That was the thing that was worth the money for me to get through. So I graduated in 2005, getting all sorts of recruitment from big home builders saying, hey, Aaron, they're taking me out to dinner. Come work for us. This is what you got to do. I ended up choosing a home builder that I'd done a couple internships with in the Santa Barbara area. And the reason I chose to work with them, it was a small privately owned builder. There was like 6 or 7 executives, but they were in California, Nevada, and Arizona. And I saw this as an opportunity to get near the top of a company, right? If I was going to join Pulte, I was never going to be in the corporate office. But if I joined something like this, I had a chance of starting out higher up and getting more opportunity. So right out of school, I ended up being the director of operations of the Southern California spot. The guy that I had interned under, who's a great friend today, he was moving out to open up Arizona. So now it's like 2006. We're golfing a few days a week. The housing market is awesome. It's taking us 60 days to build houses. They're all pre-sold. So it's like, okay, on Tuesday, it's going to be finished. On Wednesday, we're selling it. We're doing the walkthrough with the homeowner. And it was like, life was grand. It was the worst expectation of what life was supposed to be like, Shelby. I was like, I got my job. I got my degree. I got my job. Life is easy. I'm golfing all the time now. I made it. Absolutely. Like I knew that my life plan from then on was like, okay, and in a couple of years I'll be an executive and then we're going to be nationwide and I'm going to be swimming in money and golfing most of the time.
Yeah. Always only up, right?
Only up was all I thought at that moment. That changed quick. Like 2007, market started to slow down. And now in Central California, we didn't see it as much as some other places. So we were hearing about it on the news and we were researching it. But like, mid 08 was when I got a call that was like, hey, we're laying off everybody. We're shutting down Arizona. We're shutting down Southern California. We need you to come. Essentially, it was like, if you would like to keep your job, we need you to move to Sacramento next week. And if you can't, that's okay. It was like, they liked me and I was good at what I did. And I was probably also like lower paid because I was newer on the list. And, again, all great friends of mine that have changed my life. But at that time we went from like 70 people to 5 and it was like the 3 owners and their cousin and me. And so we went up to, then we spent the next couple of years doing all of these bank workouts where we were, instead of me golfing a couple days a week, I had the bags back on. I was doing manual labor in the houses. We were like cleaning them. We were detailing them. We were working with the banks to figure out how to help get themselves essentially get them out of this jam. Because for reference, and you guys will hear in when I talk a lot of the times on the podcast, in 2007, a house in like Atwater was $750,000 in our model homes. And in 2009, the short sales and REOs were going for $250,000 in the neighborhood. So we had to talk the banks that we had like $600,000 in debt on the houses to say, hey, we're still your best chance of maximizing value. Like we don't know what you're going to max out at because the market has just tanked. But if you let us do the workout, we know we'll get you more than any other way, right? If you let us finish it, maybe you'll get 270 per house instead of 250. But we're only going to stay and finish it if you don't end up going after the owner's personal guarantees, kind of stuff like that. Generally speaking, that's how we did that. Kept trying to find these different businesses during that time. That was like this wild time. Near the end of 2009, we had pretty much worked that out. We had talked like some hotels into letting us bid jobs for them, like doing commercial work because we had all these, residential framers that were out of business and maybe they could do the other stuff. And, that's when we discovered kind of foreclosures and courthouse step stuff.
Well, I think it's so cool that, and it goes all the way back to like your childhood of nothing is beneath you when you said that, because you were living this life where you were on a high every day, not drugs, just like really on a high with the business was crushing it. You're 26, you're making a shit ton of money, you're golfing. And then before you knew it, you're back to, roughing it. Yeah. You're in there in the weeds, you're building, you're using your hands and not golfing every day. Yeah. So it's just crazy. And it's really cool too, like the wealth of experiences that you've had because of the drastic change. Over time, you started out with one position and saw all the way down to creatively, how do we make it work with banks? Where do we, find opportunity with hotels? And so I just think, oh, that's really cool. But we're in 2009. Yeah. So you're 29.
Dude, and all those things happened for me, Shelby, because all the like the really amazing stuff that happens next and in the different chapters of life were all sorts of those experiences, right? Like if I hadn't worked construction for my dad, I wouldn't have known how to like help finish the houses when we needed to do them later.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I hadn't seen the different processes at that time too. I've got one kid. My wife is pregnant again. My pay had gotten cut down to like half or less. So now my wife started working nights at the casino as a waitress. So I would get home at like 6 o'clock. She would hand me our, 1-year-old baby at the time. And then she would go be a waitress. And then she would come home at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I would wake up. The baby would wake up. Let's say, all right, Maddie's awake. I'm going to work. And so we would see each other like a couple days a week, really, other than the quick handoffs. And it was a pretty crazy time. Hey guys, a quick commercial break here, but don't worry. This one is only going to run for the next 2 or 3 episodes. I talk so much about the mastermind. It's one of my passions, getting everybody to come hang out in Austin where I get to meet you guys. Well, we just had it, a few weeks ago, and we decided for next year we were going to do pre-sales. We're only selling 70 tickets total for the whole country. And that way we keep it nice and small where everybody meets everybody. And the end of it, it's like a big, giant family. Well, we put out the pre-sales last week, and during the pre-sales, we sold more than 60 tickets. So there's less than 10 spots left. 10 spots left if you want to join us for the mastermind for next year. We're putting the date so far out there, you've got no excuses to be able to know that the date works. You can put it in your calendar now. And we also set up a payment plan for people to break it up into 4 easy payments. So if you're one of those people that have thought about going to the mastermind, have never pulled the trigger, now's the time. And it's for March for next year. But you got to go sign up now if you want that spot. I don't like selling. I don't like advertising. So we figured we would knock it out quickly. We'd knock it out this first couple weeks in April for next year. So instead of working on that, we're going to focus on value. If you do join the mastermind, you get to be join part of our private Facebook group where we do monthly Zoom calls, where we do tactics. On those calls, they're really small. There's like, between 10 and 20 people on those. So you get to ask lots of questions and learn from experts. So if you are interested in signing up, go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com/mastermind, realestaterockstarsnetwork.com/mastermind. Go lock in your ticket. We have less than 10 spots left. You can break it up into 4 payments. So that way it is much easier to be sure to join. And I promise you, it is the least expensive mastermind out there for the type of stuff that we're doing. The GoBundance masterminds that I talk about that I'm a part of cost 5 times what we do for this. And I try to deliver twice as much value. All right, back to the podcast.
And that's crazy too, because now when people meet you, if they don't know the depth of your story and all the ups and downs that you've had, people just discount the years and years of work and struggle that happened before what they see in that present moment. So I think that's, again, really cool and probably really inspiring for people to hear who may be going through similar situations, that between 2009 and where we are today, I know we got another couple hurdles to go through, but it's just so cool to see and listen to. Yeah. So.
Thank you. I mean, I went, the first time going to zero was I'm like 2021 going to prison for a couple of years. That was like all the hope going to nothing. Next time was like 2007 going from high pay and on my way to all of a sudden not. And my wife's working at the casino and we're having debt every month trying to do these workouts. And it was going from a lot of hope to like that reset. We started trying to figure out what were our applicable skills. I tried to start like a drafting company that was like for AutoCAD drafting to like help people, bid out different projects. And then that didn't work. We tried to resource and find, the essentially residential workers and have them go try to work on commercial projects. And that worked for a little while. And then we saw like at that time, there was a bunch of foreclosures and REOs. There'd be a for sale sign. You'd go look at it and there'd be spray paint on the inside and all these busted out walls. And you're like, man, I want to buy this and fix it and sell it. So we're like, all right, we want to get into this. This is something we can be good at. We started writing offers on bank-owned REOs. Well, we could never get one accepted. And it took us a while to figure out why. But at first we'd make an offer and they'd say, oh, sorry, we accepted an offer yesterday. And then we would make an offer faster and they go, oh, sorry, we already accepted an offer. And then we started figuring out a way to like write offers within minutes of them coming on MLS. They would come on MLS. We would get the notification. We would underwrite it really quick. We would make an offer based on those pictures. And then we had somebody go, sorry, we've already accepted an offer. And we were like, wait a second. We offered a cash offer over asking within minutes of it coming on the market. And you told us you've already accepted another offer. And it was a bank owned. So at that point, like the bank was, as the seller, right, like was thinking like that agent had a fiduciary responsibility to get them the best offer possible. It wasn't like an investor accepting it right away. It was a bank. So we were like, what is really going on here? Fast forward, what we learned later was essentially the REO agents just had their favorite guys that they would sell the deals to. And they
would list in pen immediately.
They would, and they would like to sell it to them. So that way they could relist it on the backside. So they wouldn't have to do any work to get their 3% commission at the beginning. Their friends would buy it, hire them to resell it later. And so it worked out. So poor me, we didn't get into that business. Some people did, and they made a lot of money doing it. Luckily, we kept looking, and we discovered this courthouse step foreclosure process that essentially nobody was doing when we went there and we first saw it. And so what happens is before something becomes a bank-owned REO.
Still in Sacramento.
Yeah, this is Sacramento.
Sorry, still in Sacramento, 2010?
It's still 2009. So like mid 2009 in Sacramento, foreclosure crisis like crazy. Before a bank-owned REO happens, there's actually an auction that happens on the courthouse step. Nobody teaches you how to do that. Nobody tells you how to do it. The software had just come out called Foreclosure Radar. Buddy of mine, Sean O'Toole, built the software. He saw it like before anybody else. And he was taking the foreclosure postings at the courthouse and like putting them into a sheet. So we could see, hey, here's an address that's actually going to sale tomorrow. We went and showed up at the auction. And there was like 2 or 3 people at that auction. And like we would see a bunch of houses sell. And there were these 2 or 3 guys that were bidding on it. And I said, hey, how does this work? They wouldn't even talk to me, not look me in the eye, nothing.
Yeah.
And they just kept buying houses. They would all talk to each other. Even the auctioneer wouldn't talk to us. We're like, hey, how's this work? He's not going to talk to us. I go start reading loan documents to try to figure out like how this process works. Cause we're just starting to like learn by watching it. I start reading some loan documents. We figure out how sales going to happen. As we fast forward a week and a half later, we're like, hey, we're going to try to go bid at an auction. We show up. And the opening bid comes out for a house. He announces the address. He goes going once, going twice. These other guys aren't bidding on it. We raise our hand. A guy named Glenn goes, hey, we want to bid. And he looked at us and he goes, okay, a penny over. And we go, yeah, penny over. And he goes, and you have to hold up your checks. And he goes, going once, going twice, sold. And he grabs the checks from us. And the 3 other bidders go, they like gasp. They like gasp and start laughing and walk off. And we're like, oh my God, what just happened?
What did you do? Yeah.
Because like, what did we do wrong? Because foreclosures are like this, because there's also like all these everything that bad that people have heard about foreclosures it's also true. Yeah. You can mitigate all that stuff. And we're telling the auctioneer like, hey, this doesn't have an address on it. And we're like, and he's like, well, we don't put addresses on it. We put like the note number and the loan number because we're not guaranteeing any address or anything else. Like you're buying a loan, he said. And we like, what does that mean? You're buying a loan position. So we're like, what did we do? He takes the checks. He rides off on his skateboard, Eddie. He had his laptop set up on a trash can while he does the sale, signs this yellow receipt, no address on it. Just has like, what he took of ours and the loan number, rides off on his skateboard with our 100-ish thousand, 150,000, 250, whatever the price was. And he's like, I'm out of here. We're terrified for the next 2 weeks. Did we just lose everything that we had? And at that time, it wasn't my money. It was the guys that I was working for's money. 2 weeks later, a deed comes in the mail. We go get it recorded at the recorder's office. We get a title report on it. It says we own the house free and clear. Boom. Step number 1. We finished it. We fixed it. We own this house now. Now we go meet with the people that live there. We pay them a cash for keys. We fix it. We sell it. We get multiple offers. It sells right away. And the market that was happening then is amazing, right? Like, yay. It was such a triumphant moment, Shelby. It was like we'd been trying for a good 18 months now to try to like fix something in our business, find something that worked. Yeah. And we were like, oh my gosh. And foreclosures like that were really the only game in town because there was a whole bunch of short sales that were listed at like 400,000 that the bank wouldn't accept any of the offers. They were bank-owned REOs, but they were only going to very specific agents. They were getting all of them. The only game in town that anybody could buy were our flips. And at that time, there was 4 flippers now. And we took the home building knowledge that we had, and we were the first to do it at scale to be able to say, hey, we can ramp this up. We know how to run big sales teams and warranty programs. The first house made like 75 grand, and we're like, oh my God, we've developed a new business. Hey, real estate rock stars. This is Aaron Amuchastegui, and I'm interrupting myself to bring you this commercial break from one of our sponsors. There's somebody I've been looking at for a long time, and when they reached out to me, I said, yes, we have to be able to do this deal. So that sponsor is Follow Up Boss. there's a lot of superstars out there that use Follow Up Boss. What's your favorite CRM?
We're using Follow Up Boss.
We use Follow Up Boss.
So we use Follow Up Boss.
I love Follow Up Boss. I love it. We have action plans now for bringing on new agents. We have action plans for our recruiting.
We call them action plans in Follow Up Boss, which will trigger tasks for the agents to do as far as calling. Follow Up Boss I like more for the integrations with everything, MailChimp, Call Action, all those different products.
I will say we used Sync and we switched from Sync to Follow Up Boss.
Honestly, the greatest CRM I've ever used. I've used Brivity, Sync. I've looked at Boomtown, like Real Geeks, just a bunch of different ones. But me personally, I fell in love with FUB about like 7 months ago when I first started using it.
I've used Boomtown. I've used Line Desk. I've used Conversion. And I think Follow Up Boss gives you the most integrations that are simple, and it gives you the best ability to go and integrate large things into one single solitary platform, yet at the same time, it's still affordable.
I do like Follow Up Boss better just because you can text from the app and things like that. It's just a little more convenient for me.
It tracks everything that I need. I can customize it if I want. If I want to go smart list based, that's fine. If I want to go task based, it's fine.
I think it's one of the best systems, and it's very user friendly.
It just really helps me never drop a ball because it's so user friendly.
I don't have a one horse in the race with Follow Up Boss. Purely objective, Follow Up Boss has been the best one that we've found.
Now, I've used Follow Up Boss. We've actually used it in our non-real estate businesses as well because it's so good at being able to set timers, set automatic texting and emailing. So here's what we got. For Real Estate Rockstars listeners, you get a 30-day free trial. That's normally 14 days. So in order to get this, you go followupboss.com, just like it sounds, /Rockstars. Go there, get your 30-day free trial, and check it out. Especially if you aren't using any systems or any CRMs yet, this will be a great one for you to start with. Thanks again. Now back to our show.
Okay, I have to say something real quick. Dude, okay, from that, I think it's super cool, and I don't want to breeze over the fact that, first of all, you said 18 months to find something that worked.
Yeah.
Where you were just trying things, not working, trying things, not working. So that's the thing that I feel like a lot of agents and people in real estate in general just don't understand when you're starting out is the length of time that sometimes it takes to really find something that does work, and the mental, like, but that whole time, I bet you were going through mental loops of like, should I keep doing this? Like, is this going to work? Just questioning and doubt, and pursuing through that over 18 months is amazing. And then the other thing real quick is that you said that they wouldn't tell you how to do it, when you're trying to do these foreclosures, the auctions, and you had to go figure it out by like reading loan documents. And that's something crazy too, where it's like if you just put forth effort, a lot of effort to try to figure it out, you're going to leave everyone else behind because no one else is going to care that much or try that hard or pursue that deeply to find the solution. So I think those two things are really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's to add on to that, there's a couple little quick thoughts. Like people will say, why didn't the other guys bid on it? Well, because they thought it was a second position loan. Now, the funny thing was there were two loans, but they were recorded in the wrong order. So when you actually read the loan docs, which I actually read the loan docs on it, it specifically said in the document, this loan is subordinate to this other one, right? So the only reason that I knew it was the first is I had read 90 pages of loan docs, right? And the other guys were like, that's a second, we don't want it. Or they would have bid it up to make sure that we didn't get it. So we had tried so people, when they saw me, a year later doing all the stuff, living the way that we were living, they don't think about how hard that was. When people see how my wife gets to live and the kids and all the stuff that we spend money on and the expenses, they don't know that, that she was, pregnant as a waitress at a casino, getting smoke blown on her, while we were really trying to make it. When we first started bidding at auctions, she was bidding at auctions at one of them while I was at another one with our baby on her. She would have Maddie in a stroller and Charlotte like in her chest while she was at auctions some of the time, bidding or driving houses and stuff together. People see what's now, they don't see the battle. Exactly. 18 months of trials, we were battling through for that. Something magical happened for us that first moment of auction though, because so we tried a whole bunch of businesses. We made a really big bet on that one house at auction and we got it. The next 3 or 4 weeks we went to auction and the same way, this house is scheduled, and none of the houses that were on our list actually got sold. So we realized oh my gosh, this is like actually a really hard business. We had to learn this new strategy and realize like, hey, the fact that we got the first one was like God wanting this to be my path. Because what happened over the next few weeks is nothing happened. What really has to happen is you have to target 50 houses to be able to buy one. We learned that system. We built out that system. We started doing it at a really, really heavy scale. September 2009, my second daughter was born early, 6 weeks early. And she was on like oxygen and like a bubbler machine. And I remember thinking, that was because my wife was working nights at a casino while pregnant, that her water broke way too early. And I was staring at my little baby girl, Charlotte, on that ventilator going like, oh my God, I've let my whole family down. So we had just discovered this new business and I'd done a couple of them. And it was like, I've let my family down. Like my wife was having to do all this. Now it's my baby. Is she going to live? Are her lungs going to be normal? Is this going to affect her for the rest of her life or not? And that was the moment that I went and, while I was on leave, for that baby for the next 2 weeks, I ended up buying a house at auction. My dad invested in a house with me because my dad's business had also crashed. He had nothing else working because he was a custom home builder. And in 2009, no one was doing that. He had a couple $100,000 in savings. That was it. My dad sent me all of his savings in a cashier's check. I said, hey, I've got this new business plan. I think we can do it. You don't have to pay me any profit at all. Let me just build out the process and we'll do this and see if it works. Like, trust in me. And my dad was like, okay, I'm going to trust in you. We buy our first house at auction, and like the way that systems work is so like I bought the house for $225,000. The guy next to me also had $225,000 in checks and was bidding against me. If he would have said 225,000 before, it started at like 200,000. It was like 201, 202, 203, 204. We get near the end at 223. I jump all the way to 225. Luckily, I did that first because if he would have gone to 225, I was out of checks. If I went to 225 first, he was out of checks. So I get the house because he didn't say it first. My dad's first house is a success. I quit my job and I tell the guys like, hey, we've worked out a lot through the past few years. Thanks for keeping me around while you did. You guys are going to be fine. I've also stayed around. You guys are going to be fine now without me. And so now's a good time for me to leave and go start my own thing. My dad told his buddy about that first house that we did. And that buddy told like his money manager, hey, I want to pull some money out to go invest in this thing. His money manager called me and said, hey, Aaron, I hear that you're doing this, this, and this. I run an office out of Lake Tahoe. I'd like to meet you. I go up to meet with those guys. And at that time, I'm trying to borrow like $300,000. So they start grilling me. There's a whiteboard behind me. How's this process work? Yeah. What are you doing? And
you're like 29.
Yep. I'm 20. 30. I'm 29. Okay. I'm dressed in like jeans and like a golf shirt and and thinking still. And so the cool thing about that too is like a lot of our listeners are younger than that. Right. And so just know at 28, I had zero, I had nothing. And I had already like made a few mistakes along the way and had some resets. 29, I'm presenting to them. I have this brand new idea that is super new because now there was 5 or 6 people doing it in Sacramento, but nobody was doing it at scale yet. Everybody was still like buying a house, going and asking people for investments. And so I start presenting to these guys. They're grilling me on a bunch of questions. About 3 or 4 hours in, I have this feeling over me. I'm like, oh, Aaron, this is your moment. Like, this is that. You've been waiting for your break. This is your moment. And so I get chills again. That's why this is so fun right now. So I start telling them everything. And so at the end, they go, okay, how much money are you looking for? And I said, well, I'd really like a loan of like $200,000 or $300,000. And they started kind of laughing and chuckling. And they're like, well, if that's what you want to do, we're not the guys for you. We're guys that like to scale. We want to build something really, really big. But if you'd be interested in building something really, really big, we'd like to talk about that. And Arnold, who was my dad's friend, Arnold's still alive today. He's the guy that I call and ask about advice for what happened in the 80s and things like that. At that point, he told everybody, I'm going to invest as a partner with Aaron's dad until, if you guys do this or not, I'm in. And anything that his dad gets in, I'm going to split so Aaron can at least do twice as many as he was doing. And there was a guy there that used to be he was the vice president of Apple Asia. There was home builders. There was like 6 or 7 guys sitting around. They were pretty high net worth guys. And then one goes, well, I'm in for $1 million. Another guy goes, I'm in for $1 million. I'm in for $1 million. And all of a sudden I'm driving home at 29 with 2 babies at home. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, can I take everything I've learned up into this point, the construction stuff from my dad, the how to do hard work, the systems I've learned as a home builder, and now to do something unique. So I was the first person in Northern California at auction to actually scale on a fund basis, where we had a fund that was based on annual returns instead of individual, which gave us the ability to buy more houses than anybody else. Because we were the first people because everybody else was looking at, hey, you had to make like 10% a house, 15% a house. We were looking at, 15 to 20% annual was our goal.
Annually.
And I was doing stuff so fast, like it was essentially a 90-day turn on the money, that we knew if we made 5% on it, I was going to make money. They were going to make money. For the next 3 years, like to just really quickly summarize that, like that chapter, we did over 1,000 houses of flips. We delivered millions and millions of dollars to investors. They were making like 20 to 30% annual returns on their money. My wife became my broker. She was the broker that listed all of the houses. So I would buy them, I would fix them. She was the broker. And man, it was really, really incredible times. She instantly became one of the biggest brokers in Northern California. And we did it. We followed our same home building systems, where it was like in home building, you buy land, you develop it, you have a sales team, you have a warranty process. We did the foreclosures the same exact way, except for instead of buying land, we were buying houses. But then we had the construction team, we had the sales teams. We would even offer a warranty. So at that time, when people knew they were buying a foreclosure flip, getting a warranty out of it, where they could call us in 6 months and say, hey, this fan is out. Can you come fix it? We would just do that for free because we had so many people working around. I took everything I knew in home building and applied it to that business. So like come 2012, 2013, we had my wife and I had made a bunch of money. We had gotten.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. Oh my God. If I went into a meeting asking, way older than me, life experience, all that stuff for like $300,000 and left with millions of dollars, I feel like I'd be freaking out at that point. How, like, were you freaking out, or were you like, let's fucking go?
It was interesting because part of me was like, should we accept it or not? Should we accept it? Because obviously, like, I've been working
responsibility,
right? There's so much possibility, but I had also been working so much that my wife was being a waitress. Like, so I knew we needed to make more money to survive, but like how much more? Plus, obviously, the excitement of like, this is my moment. Cause I had known for my whole life, like, I want to make some big business. I'm going to build something big. And I had all these times where like I was doing it the wrong way or it didn't happen. And I thought this was my moment. And then it went to zero. And so that was a really special like drive home and a really like exciting time. And I got to like build my own company from scratch. So I got to analyze my dad when he was doing his business and try to go like, Dad, you should be doing this, 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 and this. And I worked for other people. And I was always like, you guys should be doing this, this, and this. Well, it's finally time to put my money where my mouth was, because it was 100% on me. It was like I had to put my money where my mouth was and do that.
And I don't want to make like a complete derail, but I am super curious about like I know that a lot of people who do flips, and me personally, have had a bunch of issues with like contractors in general and keeping renovations on schedule. And if you were turning them in 90 days, like, is there any like one key thing? Again, I don't want to derail, but like
I've got 2 or 3 things about contractors that I think are really helpful for everyone. Mm-hmm. When somebody is like opening up and since then in life, we ended up opening like Phoenix offices and Southern California offices and Texas offices. And so I've restarted these satellites in a bunch of different places before. And so what I always try to remind everybody is, one, it's going to take you 10 painters to find that right painter. And it's going to take you 10 landscapers to find the right landscaper, which means you're going to have 10 failures before you find the person that I can trust. Because in order to scale, you need people that are going to be on your budget, that you don't have to do much to manage. Right? That you can give them an address and they're going to do your spec at the right price on the right day. Because at the end, so when we were really off and humming, I would buy a house at auction. We would text somebody. They would rekey it that day. They would take pictures. They would schedule our trades. The painter would sometimes show up that night or the next day, and they would paint for 2 days, paint for a day and a half. Then we would have the team do all of the flooring and all the finishes. If we had cabinets would get like installed on the 4th day and clean. We were on the market by Thursday. Was our goal. We had to be on the market by Thursday every day. There's a video on YouTube that we show as the 4-day flip. It's like a $25,000 to $30,000 remodel. It's gutted to the studs. And we had a camera crew follow us. And in 4 days, we took it from gutted to the studs to on the market and sold it. And so it's pretty crazy to see how that works. But the key to get there.
Yeah, that's goals. That is amazing.
But the key to get there is, one, like, you have to fire a bunch of painters to find the good one. Every time I would hire somebody new, like that works for me, to say, hey, go find a painter for this project in San Antonio. they were always like, this is going to be the one. This guy's going to be the one. And I'm like, don't get your hopes up. Let's hire them. This is how we figured out. They're like, no, this is going to be the one that's going to do all of our stuff. And they fail us. Then you find the one that does work. You know, the landscaper that had done a few different jobs for me on like the 4th or 5th job. And her first job, she had like her kids on her in a pack while she was like installing planters too. So she had a very small company. By the time 2012 hit, they had like 8 company trucks and they had a huge. So when we first hired them to do our very first flip, they were just starting their landscape company. They'd end up building a giant company around us too. On the 4th or the 5th house, she sent me an invoice. They sent me a quote that said it's gonna be $5,000. And I said, okay. And I did it. They finished the job and she goes, hey, it ended up only being $2,800 because the backyard didn't end up needing sod. I would have never known that. I've never seen the house. I'd never been there in person. I would have never known. She could have charged me $5,000. I'd already approved it. I said $5,000 is approved. And she told me that instead. So instantly now, Karen was going to get the rest of my jobs from here on out because I knew that she was going to I knew she was going to be honest with me. And she did thousands of houses for me later and built a big company and still like the most trustworthy person I'll send anybody to over there. I had a window guy do something similar where there was a sliding glass door that needed repaired. And he called me and he goes, hey, Aaron, I was actually able to get the manufacturer to cover that under warranty because the seal was broken. So they're going to ship out a new door. Also, I had one of those doors at my office. So I just installed the door from my office for you today. So you don't have to wait for it. But when the warranty one comes in, I'm keeping that one. The whole thing's free. Hey, Real Estate Rockstars. We only have a few minutes left in this episode, but before we get to the grand finale, I just wanted to say, as always, thank you for listening. You know, podcasts are obviously free. You don't have to pay to listen to the podcast, but if you could pay one thing, if I could charge you one thing to listen to this podcast, what I would ask you to do is go, please make a review. Go to wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's on YouTube or on Apple or Android, wherever you listen to podcasts, and go give me a review of the podcast. I read them. I listen to them. I try to make adjustments. You know, a couple years ago, I had a ton of bad reviews on the sound quality or the number of advertisements, things like that. And I've really tried to dial in to add value for all of you guys. So please go do a review. If you want to get a copy of the toolbox of the stuff that, you know, everybody that comes on the show, they give us some tactics. They give us something that we put in what we call our toolbox. And so to get that, you go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com. When you get there, click on the toolbox and you get access to the free gift that every person that we interview on the episode provides. There's things like, listing tactics, how to do a presentation, how to do a newsletter, all sorts of cool, fun stuff. And if you want to talk to me, go find me on Instagram at Aaron Amuchastegui. Ask me a question. I talk to so many of you guys on there. All right, back to the show. Thanks again for being a listener.
Wow.
And he didn't have to tell me any of that. I approved $1,000. He could have gotten the free door and charged me $1,000. So that guy got the rest of my windows for the rest of my life.
Forever.
Right. So so it takes time to find those trades. And the key is knowing, like, don't be discouraged if a trade shows you who they are and they're not good. Don't try to train them, just on to the next, because there will be good ones. And once you have your key, like 7 or 8 trades, even in Texas now, in Killeen, if we buy a house, 4 days later, it's on the market, period. We know we can send a scheduling announcement. We have our painters, our flooring, our cleaners, everything. 4 days later, we're on the market. A new market that we hadn't been in. We did one of these flips a month ago. It took us 6 days to get on the market. So those are the tips that I would give you. Like, very unlikely that your first 5 contractors you hire are going to be the ones that you're going to use. Keep looking. Don't get discouraged. It's going to take about 10 before you find the one that you're like, cool, this is the one I can trust for each trade.
Okay. Totally. That makes sense. Love it. Okay. We were 3 years after when you met your dad's friends. Yeah. So we're at what? 2012? 2012, 2013. You've been rocking and rolling. You've been crushing it this whole time.
And for everybody that's been on for the last hour, thank you. Right? Like, the Shelby is shining here as the interviewer. And for listeners going like, fuck, Aaron's been talking for an hour. Like, anyone that's still here, we really appreciate you.
I know you're all still here because everyone wants to hear this.
Well,
I'm
happy and I'm grateful, and I think it's fun that I get a chance to share this. So we've got a couple little chapters in my story left here, everybody. But I promise,
sorry, I keep asking, Aaron. You can cut me off if you need to.
No, but this is your show, so you can cut me off whenever you need to. Like, you are Shelby Johnson, Real Estate Rockstars host today. You're not the co-host. You are the host today.
The host.
You're the captain.
That's right. I'm the captain.
You are the
Is that
captain.
the energy?
You're in charge.
You're
That was
looking for?
good. I
Okay.
like that one. If I change my real estate intro, I'm gonna to our podcast.
Do
It's gonna
that
have you
one.
saying, "I'm the captain."
Perfect. Okay, back to 2012.
2012, 2013. Man, the problem during that time in my life, the problem of making a whole bunch of money during that time is there were some old traits of mine. Like I liked being cool and popular when I was the guy selling drugs, right? I like being cool and popular when I'm the guy that has money. I still wasn't very good at meeting people and making friends and being able to choose between that. And money brings in a lot of ego, brought in a lot of ego clashes between my wife and I. With different things because she was making money as a broker. I was making money in here. We were spending money on wasteful things. I didn't have mentors in GoBundance like I have now that could have told me like, hey, Aaron, you should be investing some of that, or you should be holding on to some of those rentals, or you shouldn't be blowing it on things like that. In my mind, it was always like, we're flipping like 30 or 40 houses a month right now. Nothing is going to touch us in this business. Nobody's going to be able to shut me down. I don't foresee anything going to happen. These two guys from Blackstone, big hedge fund, fly out, come meet with me. They say, hey, we're getting into this single family game. We're going to do these as rentals. We're going to buy at auction and we're going to hold them at rentals. Do you want to come work for us? And I was like, work for you? I should have Googled who's Blackstone.
Why?
I should have done a quick little Google. Why would I come work for you when I made $100,000 last month in commissions alone, not even counting our flip profits? No, get out of why
here.
would I go take a job from somebody else? And they're like, well, we'll pay you. We'll buy your company. We'll shut it down. You can work for us as an employee, but there's going to be this big opportunity for other stuff. And I was like, no, that's not like, you're not going to be able to be successful as rentals because none of these are good rental investments anyway, as you're looking at it. I've already the biggest flipper. You're not going to be able to touch me on it. Nothing's going to be able to shut me down. They're like, Aaron, if you don't come work for us, Dallas, he's built this giant company. He's one of the most impressive men I've met in person now, seeing what he did from that time as he's the CEO of that company, now Invitation Homes. He said, if you don't come work for us, we're going to put you out of business. And he's like, nothing against you. It's just going to happen. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. Well, long story short, Shelby, they put me out of business. They crushed me. They came to market and they bought everything at the market. The crazy thing is I could have predicted what was going to happen. Like if I would have actually taken what they had seriously, I could have made some big moves going, hey, this is what I know is going to happen. What is some stuff that I should be doing right now instead to prepare? Instead of I knew something was going to happen. I didn't try to see how that could help me. I didn't try to make any moves on it. So they put me out of business. They come and they buy every house that's listed on the market at foreclosure at no matter what price. They buy every house that's listed on the MLS at whatever price. Right. So every house on MLS, they're making cash offers full price now of the flips.
Insane.
Every house that's at auction, they're bidding until they get all of them. They buy 95% of the product in Northern California. If it was
that's insane.
It's insane. So, and I'm like, these are bad deals. Why would you do that? Yeah. And then 3 months in, I'm like, you guys have hundreds and hundreds of occupied properties that you haven't even knocked on the door yet. You guys are such bad operators. This is not going to work. Why are you going to do this? What I didn't realize was it was a huge asset grab. And what I learned from them then changed my life in 2020. But what I saw them do is a huge asset grab that they said, no, things are underpriced here. We don't really care about the rental or anything like that. We're going to buy everything. And by buying everything, they bought everything on the market. Within 12 months, our market in Sacramento, the sales prices had increased 45%. So every house that they bought for $300,000 that was overpriced, now worth $450,000. They also showed me the value of a refinance where then they took out a $400,000 loan on that house, that you get $100,000 tax free on that. And they're dancing again. So, but they didn't do that for a house. They did that for thousands and thousands of houses. So they put everybody out of market. I went to zero again. I lost all my money. I remember in December of 2012, telling my wife, hey, I need you to transfer money over to my account for payroll. And she goes, I don't have any money. It might've been 2013. I don't have any money left in my account. You transferred last month for payroll. And I was like, what? So we'd started the year with over $1 million, ended the year with zero. I had to go lay people off to go I can make payroll today, but today's the last day. I can't keep anybody else. I had to work out workouts with my lease to finish that out at the office. I had some houses that I needed to finish, but I couldn't pay anyone to do it anymore. And I tell you what, Shelby, it was a really surreal experience to be my marriage was in shambles because the ego stuff during that time created us we weren't a team anymore. Some really bad things happened. Then we're out of money. trying to restart some different stuff. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my mortgage and not lose it in foreclosure. And I remember applying to be an Uber driver. I remember applying to be a building inspector at the city of Napa, which was an hour and a half away. And I was like, I'm going to drive Uber. I'll try to catch drives between here and Napa. I'll go be the building inspector. And there was one county left that nobody was bidding in at auction, and that was Napa. And they wouldn't do it because only like 1 or 2 houses would sell a month down there. But when you did, there was big margins. So then for the next 2 months, I kept myself alive by being the one person that would buy at Napa County. It was like the only secret that was left was in Napa. I could go buy houses there during that time, but I couldn't do it with any employees anymore. So I didn't have any employees left. I was going and doing all that, and going from making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to applying to be an Uber driver and a building inspector was a very, very humbling time. So
again, with the wild, like I told listeners at the beginning, wild ride, like this is such a wild ride, Aaron, like every high, every low, like it's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, from the biggest flipper in town to out of business by Blackstone. That was part 2 of our hero's journey. And next week, we get to see how Aaron bounces back yet again, the ultimate bounce back man. So see y'all next week. Later.